We talk about the Madaraka Express and racism and all that. It might be necessary for us as a country to change our work ethic. It won't be very unfortunate if after the period is over, we then go out to look for expatriates because we are learning multiple derailings. The trains cannot come on time. They are running out of fuel on the road. And the kind of things we have seen on our own infrastructure. So what we are expecting those Kenyans to do, those with an opportunity, is to shift the focus on the challenge at hand. We are aware as a government there are forces which are not very friendly to that project. And I can tell you that those staff members who offer their services to those people will certainly have no future in that place, because we are building a human resource base that will build and hand over to other Kenyans. And therefore they have a huge responsibility, and some of them don't seem to appreciate it. Are we gagging the staff on so that they don't use social media to discuss the organization? Unfortunately, yes. If you are living in an organization and you are demarketing it, you are giving it bad publicity.
The government spokesperson, as I mentioned, joins us now in studio. Do you stand by those comments that you made yesterday?
Oh, yes.
Every bit of them?
Oh yes.
Okay, I can give you 30 seconds to make your opening statement.
The only thing I have a quarrel with is that I said bear with the Chinese who are oppressing Kenyans. I never said that. I never implied it.
So
what I
said,
and I have my, that is not misquoting. That is creation of news. That is fake news.
Okay.
What I said is very categorical, and I would want to repeat it very clearly. I have my statement here, that the government has received these complaints. All of them will be judiciously investigated and appropriate action taken. I briefly went through the complaints which are discrimination at the workplace, issues of financial mismanagement,
pay disparities, unfair dismissal.
There
have been complaints of Chinese replacing Kenyans.
The Chinese replacing Kenyans. I went through those in bits. And I told them that each of those will be judiciously investigated, some of it by the Kenya Railways. You know that our parliament is seized of the matter. You saw that even before I ended the press conference, the Cabinet Secretary for Labour had already formed a team to go out there and find the facts so that we can deal with those complaints. I also told them about the complaints on wildlife, that it is true some of wildlife has been killed on the railway, accidentally, just as we run over cattle on our roads. But there are measures in place. There is a fence which is being enhanced. And therefore I stated categorically that the government is satisfied with the work in progress.
And I believe when it comes to, for example, calling for investigation, etc., nobody has a problem with that. But there are a couple of lines within the same. I want to read the same lines.
There is a couple of lines now.
Can I first ask one?
Yes.
Let me ask. First things first. You talked about, while the government is on hand to protect individual rights and dignity, inward-looking haki yetu personalities have no place in this kind of profession. So
excellent.
Is that correct?
Excellent.
Excellent. So in a sense, it appears you've already investigated. You've determined that there is activism by employees of the SGR, and you are condemning them. That's how I see it. Please respond.
Excellent. Unfortunately, your assessment is right. There is a part of the employees who are airing complaints on social media And we know that some of these people are young. They have not been employed in any other organization. And what I told them.
You've talked to them?
And Wahiga Mwaura. It is only the government spokesman who can tell you some of these things because he's not looking for votes.
Okay.
You have people you supervise in this media house, and you would be an angel if none of them has complained against you. There are systems within the Royal Media Services to address grievances from employees.
Let me tell you what.
Against other employees. Kenya Railways Corporation is not an exception. One other thing you missed. We are running an international standard railway service. A service which will not accommodate. It's timed. If you are waiting for the train at Emali at 10:30, that is the way it should be. We cannot continue going to Singapore, to Malaysia, to Israel for benchmarking without picking the best practices.
Okay.
You want your cargo to be loaded in Mombasa, and you are told expect it in Nairobi at 4. So what I put across is that the railway system requires near military standard discipline. That is what I categorically stated.
And that's one of the issues that's come up.
And we must tell the young men and the young women, and remember.
Let me ask you a question. Hang on there. Let me ask you a question. The report came out on Sunday.
Yes.
In the papers.
Yes.
The Standard, to be more specific. Dan Benjamin called Paul Wafula, the Standard Group.
And he has done a great job.
He has done a great job.
Of investigative journalism.
Between Sunday and it's Thursday today, at what point did you go and speak to the employees, get both sides of the story, so that you can then stand before Kenyans yesterday and tell them that haki yetu activism is what is happening at the SGR? So explain to me that on Monday.
Wahiga, let me explain to you these things.
Please go ahead and do that.
Before complaints come to the media, they initially come to the government. You might not know it, but before you get the information, we'll have been having it sometimes for months. That is one thing.
Is that what happened in this case?
The other thing you forget is that the MD, Kenya Railways, is a phone call away. The other thing you forget is that I have another cap I wear, that of a policeman. And I have a command structure there, all the way from AIG to police constable. The other thing you are forgetting, I don't know why you think from the city center to Syokimau needs 4 days.
Your CS has asked for 7 days. That's why I'm wondering how you did it in 4 days alone.
And therefore, what I give there, and I don't know what you have the biggest quarrel with.
Several statements, and if you
is that as a country we need to engage on dialogue on our work ethic. And we had a long dialogue with your journalists, and I asked them, why is it that even simple private citizens putting in 4 apartments are giving these jobs to the Chinese when we know we are more qualified? Why is it that today Kenya Airways is being managed by a foreigner?
That's not what we're here to discuss today.
Paid by us. No, let me ask you a question. When I say work ethic, look here very carefully, Maura.
And mistreatment of staff.
You must look at SGR and mistreatment of staff is a done deal.
Pay disparities.
The Ministry for Labor is dealing with it. What you are calling pay disparities, these people, a majority of them are still interns. They are trainees. Some of them don't even know whether they will be confirmed in appointment. Anyway, I don't want to go down
into the nitty-gritties,
to the details which Kenya Railways will give you at
when they're ready. But
not when they are ready. Records on human resource pay and they are always ready.
Okay.
So if you want those details on pay, the rationale through which they are reached, go down there. I am the government spokesman, and what I put across very clearly is that as a country, it is not enough at every point and turn to jump around about Akietu. It is not enough to engage in activism.
Okay.
It is not enough to condemn this, to condemn the other.
Okay.
Let us ask ourselves, why are jobs going away? And I stated very clearly.
Sorry, hang on there.
Let me give you the program of handover.
Hang on.
Wahiga, I love to ignore you for a while so that I give Kenyans facts. The
briefly,
fact
please,
is that
I'm the one asking the questions.
very briefly, the fact is I'm the one giving Kenyans a government message. Is that up to now, by the end of this year, the local component of the staff in SGR must be 68% and above.
As per the deal signed.
Next year, yes, as per the what must work. By the end of next year, it must be 72%. By the end of 2021, it must be 77%. And by the end of 2022, it will be 90%. After that, we shall retain any expatriates if we think we need them. Remember, this is our project. This is not a government project. The railway will be here in perpetuity. 5 years is a very short time. What we are telling those young people very categorically, and what I would want you to be querying, is that are we going after this? Even then, pay disparities, pay disputes will always be there. They are here.
Okay.
Are we going to be able to inherit, to take it and move it to the next level?
Fair enough. I've given you time. Now, please also give me time to ask my question. You said that as government spokesman, you have access to information, and any complaints or the media report that was done on Sunday, you would have already received information about it before. My question is, number one, had you received complaints about the SGR before as government? Secondly, what did you do about them? Because by the time people are going to public to talk about this, it means they're frustrated. It means they feel they're not getting their way. And you raised another important point there. You said in organizations where people demarket the organization, there are consequences. For example, they are let go, etc. But this seems to be a bulk of people. Why were these people, if you say that they are not behaving as they should, why retain them?
The mistake you are making is that...
So the first question is, when did the complaints come?
1,000. Let me tell you one thing, and I will be very honest here. I don't want to grandstand. Complaints on issues like wildlife had been received. They were being dealt with. Yeah? Do
you have any specifics? I just want to be very specific. What do you mean by dealt with?
Already they have designed and they are putting up an electric fence to enhance the chain link fence which was there. That is work in progress. You go there, you see that being done. The other issue is that the small matters on human resource complaints here and there, one officer complaining that.
They are not small, sir.
I said in my statement, you have not led highly sensationalized. You did not ask me what is sensationalized and what is truthful. There is one complaint only which had not come forward.
Which one?
That there could be deliberate sabotage of skills transfer.
By the Chinese who still want to retain their jobs?
By the Chinese who are there to train the Kenyans. That one had not reached the MD. The others, they were looking for ways and means of reaching an understanding so that people can understand the why a lot of things. Others are outright frivolous, like people have a canteen which we are not allowed to go.
When a reporter...
There is a culture clash.
So, for example, and it's interesting you've raised that. When a reporter goes for a sort of fact-finding mission with the SGR, and when the van that you're in, the Chinese officials exit and enter another one, and in a sense, you're not allowed to enter that one. In the 21st century in Kenya, I'm talking about Paul Wafula, he said this on record several times. Is that culture? Is that discrimination? Is that colonialism? That I, as Wahiga Maura, cannot enter a van because there are Chinese officials?
I will have to start...
I want to get your view.
I will have to start teaching you a lot of things.
Please,
educate me. The way you are trained and brought up, yeah? Although I'm yet to see you getting into the van, Mr. Macharia gets in this place. The way you are trained, you must also get yourself into the shoes of these people. These are trainees. These are people being trained. That is one thing. Another thing, the workers the contractor has brought into Kenya, he has brought them with some management practices which is not your business. And he might want to retain them so that when he goes back with them to China, he is able to continue working the way they work in China.
You're talking about skills transfer, or? I'm
not talking about...
we're not, that's not...
It's not an issue of skills. It is an issue of organizational culture. It is an issue of how people are culturalized. I'll give you an example you can understand more easily. I know you come from somewhere in Central Province. If you come to Meru today, where I come from, and we start working together, and one of the young men who is a trainee used that word, and I have had it, you start hearing, these Melus are a bit weird. If you move to a little bit to Isiolo and so on,
different cultures,
you won't even be able to sit and eat unless you are ready to adjust and appreciate.
Okay.
By the time you reach Siaya,
but
it becomes so you must appreciate that these people are socialized differently. These people are Chinese and they are not Kenyans.
Fair enough. If it's in your house or my house, you could say our rules. But these are publicly paid for vehicles, to the best of my understanding.
And the journalists want to get inside there.
No, he wonders why.
These are staff vehicles. Why am I not taking a ride in a Citizen van this morning?
Because you don't work for Citizen, spokesperson.
No.
You do not.
Even if we had buses, I will understand it better because I'm a policeman or a Higa. And you must agree with me. As a constable, I did not take a ride with inspectors. And as an inspector, I did not take a ride with the superintendents.
There are rules.
And they are rules which might not necessarily be shared with...
Which is my question, actually. So are there unwritten rules about how operations should be done at the SGR?
If you want to go and get all the written and unwritten rules in SGR, go and work there. And that is why the management of SGR will be taking all the time telling the MPs the nitty-gritties. But don't look at a situation, look at my dressing, and they just condemn me.
So you see no problem. I'm not condemning you. I'm just surprised that you see no concerns that...
We have investigators which the government has sent there.
Okay.
They will go there. They will analyze the problem. Remember, our constitution is supreme and it does not allow discrimination on any grounds.
But we are talking...
I said as much.
But we're talking about discrimination.
But let us not try to manage SGR through the media. It doesn't happen anywhere.
The workers, their spokesman, feel that that's the only way their voice can be heard. And that then brings...
If you look at me very carefully, and if you listened even yesterday, I congratulated the work of investigative journalism done. You did your bit. You highlighted something you think was a matter of much public interest. Now give us an opportunity to work on it.
My worry is, and that's a good point you've raised, that you immediately, in a sense, almost rubbished the findings.
Can you read?
When you talk about Haki
Yetu, the statement?
Haki Yetu, sort of, you know, when you talk about work ethic.
Let me ask you a very direct question.
Haven't you passed judgment already?
Let me ask you a very direct question. Are you this morning stating that you believe that staff complaints, and I gave an example of many institutions, in Kenya Breweries, in Citizen Media, in Coca-Cola, in Nairobi University.
Fair. I think we get what you mean.
Are you saying that now categorically, face the camera and tell Kenyans that wherever you are, if you have a complaint within your organization, go to the social media and go to the journalist and splash it there?
Who owns and
look Kenyans in the eye and say that?
this is a public operation paid for with taxpayers' money, including mine. And you said, your words exactly,
even in my
that the
own
SGR
office,
it's a Kenyan
even
project.
where I work, it is a Kenyan office. There are rules, there are regulations, there are systems, there are procedures. I'm a very senior citizen of this country. I'm not cheating in a young man. When you get employed, part of the qualification is your capacity to be able to operate within the rules and regulations of those organizations, what Wahiga thinks notwithstanding.
No, okay.
And that
so
is why he is here today. Why didn't you come in a t-shirt?
You're not taking
and
us around. So are those the rules then?
Read one and ask me about it.
Is it the rules that I can't use, that a Kenyan cannot use the same van as a Chinese national, for example?
I've told
we
you.
have also had allegations, and maybe raise others, punishment of staff. And maybe you can talk about that. It's come out in the report. Punishment. How are adults punished outside the judicial system?
If I had all the answers, Mwaura, the Minister for Labour would not have gone out to send an investigative team. The first statement in that press release I did is acknowledging that these complaints have been received, they have come to the attention of the government, and that they will be judiciously investigated and the action taken. Unataka niongeze nini?
If at the end of the 7 days that CS Yatani has asked for, and the investigations reveal that everything that the investigative report said is true, will you still stand by these statements?
On the work ethic?
Not on work,
yes.
Not on work ethic? On
which statement?
Activism?
Oh.
Activism,
I am not surprised.
Truth, but you're calling it activism. If again the CSS statement
let me
confirms
tell you,
that?
Whatever the findings are, organizational activism operates within limits. And I've told you, you did not come here in a t-shirt this morning.
Because there are rules that I was given, which are public information.
You are given, I don't know them. I don't know why you think they are public information. And I have no reason to find them. I've told you I have worked for very many institutions, including international institutions. And let us not tell the young people we are bringing up to take over critical responsibilities. I hesitate to mention to you that an infrastructure like SGR is also a security installation. We want those young people. They are the first crop to learn on this railway. Remember, what we replaced was 100 years old. The foundations they lay will take this country to the next 100 years old.
And so the foundations must be done properly.
And as much as we will be able to address every issue, and action will be taken very specifically. Remember that I'm a very black Kenyan.
No, I think there's no...
You cannot discriminate me against any of those things, and I smile.
The first two paragraphs of your statement and the last paragraph, nobody's arguing about them. It's the middle section. So, I want it to be clear for
I want it to be very clear also that as a country we need serious dialogue on our work ethic.
Fair enough.
I ask this question and I ask it again.
Okay, ask briefly, please. Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to take it very far or to aggravate our already bad situation. But why are simple things? Why is the director of immigration carrying out intelligence and finding that so many workers in this country who don't have permits, employed by Kenyans, not the government? Why?
Because we have poor immigration systems.
Not an issue of immigration system, Wahiga. When I employ you
illegally.
When I employ you, or when Macharia employs you because you will be able to meet the requirements of the organization.
Let me ask you another question.
We must have a culture that put work and our key responsibilities first, that follows regulations, that follows procedure, and those are the basic foundations of what we are calling the rule of law. What Kenyans you are seeing on our roads is not normal, it's not ordinary.
Okay.
Whoever says it.
Okay.
What we are seeing in NYS, in whatever name it, is not normal. And
Okay,
if we are
so-
going to get through with the big four, overcome our unemployment, overcome our perennial hunger issues, make this country industrialized, improve our buildings. You will not put buildings outside regulations which are collapsing,
Okay,
cutting
okay.
shortcuts,
Spokesperson,
simply because
thank you. I
the
think
rules
you've
are
made-
too difficult to be followed.
You have made your
Let
point.
us not
I
lie
now
to
have
each
I have a
other.
question for you.
Yes.
Are you speaking on behalf of yourself, on behalf of the management of Standard Gauge Railway, on behalf of the government?
I can tell you for a fact, I am speaking, one, as a government spokesman. We know why so many government, when the government started the youth empowerment program, what did they want to achieve? Is it shortcuts? When the government put roads, highways on our road, we don't build them so that through shortcuts we can have multiple accidents.
Are you speaking on behalf of SGR?
When the government, look here, I don't know why you are, when I talked about a national dialogue on our work ethics, I had already moved away from SGR,
So
where you seem to be fixated.
it is because
and you should
it is because
read
it
my
is
speech.
I'm here on behalf of our viewers, spokesperson,
You
and
should,
that
no,
and
you are
that
not representing them.
I am. It is
You
it
should-
is something that
then
has surprised them.
you
I
would-
must be honest with you.
Then you would have to read what I wrote.
I have extensively.
Because I gave the status on the SGR, and then I deviated and I said, there is an observation here. As a country, we need to dialogue on our work ethic.
Okay, and then since you're here
We
on
must
work ethic,
dialogue on what we look at, rules, the laws.
we have
as.
Kenyans working for the highest ranking organizations around the world, from NASA, you name it. We have Kenyans flying planes around the world as well, if it's about technical expertise.
Yes.
Which is why I find it hard to buy your work ethic narrative unless you can be very specific and give me statistics. Because it sounds like a generalization.
It is very easy to talk the way you are talking. What I'm telling you is that when you look at my own brief, I asked a question. We have some of the best experts here. Why are we losing jobs to foreigners, even in our own country? And I did not talk about government.
But you know, there's more.
I talked about private companies, small ones, not even the big multinationals. And I said, the way we treat work here, I can tell you, Wahiga, I went with a contingent of Kenyan policemen to the UN. And we won medals. But I can tell you, the way they work on our roads here is not the way they were working there. When Kenyans are doing a Kenyan thing, can we adopt international standards, work ethics? Can we remain faithful to our professions?
That, in your view,
You have
has not been happening.
If it has been happening, Wahiga, buildings supervised by engineers would not be collapsing.
Okay.
We will not be having the kind of chaos you see in our roads quite often. We would not be complaining about so many things. And most importantly, remember, one of the big four is job creation for ourselves. We will not be having organizations, hotels, small constructions, giving jobs we are capable of doing.
Fair enough. I, however, see that you're only picking one perspective of the challenges of this nation. There are those who would then ask you, is it a regulation issue? You've talked about immigration. You've talked about illegal foreigners in companies. My question is, why has government and the people government has charged not weeded out these people? One, we also know that a lot of these foreigners are hired by fellow foreigners. How do they get to know about them? How do they bring someone, for example, from India? Somebody must have connected you. You've talked about buildings. You've talked about roads. If we don't have good regulations, if we don't follow up, spokesperson, you cannot blame the ordinary Kenyan out there when you know that systems
Wahiga,
are not working. If we are to buy your argument again, which I don't buy.
I will take you to another realm. The law, according to the Bible, was meant for non-believers. That is one thing. Two, the regulations and the laws we have in this country. Yeah? I don't know whether you know, we are the country with the biggest volume of a constitution. It is not a question about the regulations, the laws. We are not banning schools because there are some regulations missing. We must take it from house to school, from house to workplace. And in between, we must be able to be a country where we have a culture. I talked about values. I talked about ethics. I said work ethic. I think you should research on the whole idea of work ethic.
I think I have a pretty good idea, spokesperson, but carry on.
And it is not about one aspect. It is about the capacity to focus on the job at hand. Problems notwithstanding.
Fair enough. Spokesperson,
and
in
my
last question to you,
yes,
as you stood up there yesterday,
yes,
and should it turn out that majority of the complaints were genuine,
yes,
should it turn out, again, waiting for the investigation, and we've already seen an investigative report.
Excellent.
Would the ordinary SGR worker not feel that you are being a spokesman, not for Kenya, but for China?
No, unless they listen
especially
to you
one who has been aggrieved.
Unless they listen to you. Let me tell you what happens if all those allegations are true.
All of them. Let's take.
If the team which is investigating goes and finds out all those allegations are true, I think there are some people who go to court. There are some people who will actually be thrown out of Kenya.
Will you apologize for some of the statements you made?
But listen to me very carefully. The SGR must go on. We must give it, look at the greater intention. I said it has a critical part to play in the Big Four, in the economic and social development of this country. We must not condemn the SGR as an entity. We shall condemn and punish those people who are doing the wrong things prohibited by law, or those people, even by conduct, don't seem to appreciate that we are an independent country. We have a constitution which underscores the dignity, fundamental human rights and freedoms of every Kenyan.
Fair enough. We have some feedback from some of our viewers. Let's take a look at what they have to say on this particular matter. Obviously, very emotive, spokesperson. That's why I called you here for this, and thank you for honoring this invitation. Yeah. This is what some of you have to say. Felix Bet5, how is skills transfer possible when everything is written in Chinese? You can note that, spokesperson. You will answer that for us. Mwathiki Joshua says, tell Eric Kiraithe there are very many platforms to convey information, including social media, which the same government, including your office, also use. If news are fake, why are you then not charging those who are sending fake news? Wording in Chinese. In Kenya, where I believe we have English and Kiswahili. Kiswahili first of all, and then English.
One thing I will tell you, Wahiga, is that in a project of this nature, and where there are skills transfer, we need to be brighter. There will be obstacles.
What do you mean by brighter, spokesperson? Would the Chinese allow us to set up a Kiswahili project in China?
Let me tell you.
I just want to be fair to you as well.
There are very many Kenyan translators. There are very many Kenyans now who have learned fluent Chinese. And I'm sure that if that finding is made, Atanas Maina will employ enough interpreters in a way.
Why do we need the interpreters in a country with 44 million Kenyans who speak common language?
Look here. Is it your opinion that we should now bring, how, if we are not going to bring interpreters, if we are not going to bring translators, how do you suggest we do it?
No, I'm looking at some of the stats you gave me about the handover of local content. You're talking about 68%, 72, 77, 90. All these will need to learn Chinese to work in Kenya. I think that's what's boggling.
That is what you are looking at. I am looking at even medical books, and all these are written even in Latin. I am looking at availing enough literature to those who must get it written in the language they understand. Translating a document from Chinese or a manual to Kiswahili or to English, I think is the easiest thing on earth. And by the way, don't assume that these interns, these trainees are illiterates. Most of them are university graduates. So we don't need them to learn Chinese. And we don't need to teach Chinese Kiswahili.
You're forcing them to do so.
What you do, get an interpreter. If you are not, and you can go one better, get all these things translated. If you are not satisfied with that,
okay, but you're still not answering my question. Why in Kenya?
What do you want me to answer?
50 years after independence. Okay, was it part of the condition that, because you spoke about a condition between the government and those who set it up?
We are talking about technological transfer. Think slightly outside the box. Luckily, we buy a lot of things from English-speaking countries. If you bought something written in Kiganda, what did you do? You translate it into the language you can understand. These people who have gone to Russia, how are they finding direction?
But you've said gone to Russia, not in Kenya. And in fact, okay, so fair enough. So
we contracted a Chinese company. Did you want them to take the Chinese before the workers come here and everybody else? That would be
and teach them English or Kiswahili.
Let me tell you, I will sooner translate, I will sooner interpret.
Okay.
And that's the best way possible to communicate will be found by the experts who have gone there, and they will advise.
Fair enough. Yes. Let me ask you a question. The Cuban doctors are here. They were forced to learn English. They're learning Kiswahili. In Wasingishu, they're learning Kalenjin. I don't know why the Chinese could not have been taught. That's one. But secondly, when I go to use the SGR, I'll find signs in Chinese. I'll find indicators, ways in which you navigate around the station are in Chinese. Is that necessary, spokesperson?
It is not necessary. That one.
So why is it happening?
If that is not necessary, but I have also a lot of gadgets where I find even cars, the cars we are buying, a lot of them are written in Japanese. The thing is, for customer care, where there is urgent need, I believe Kenya Railways will take the necessary step.
Okay. Did the government allow the Chinese to get away with
small things of translating language? Don't elevate it to government level.
But the deal is between the government and the CRBC, for example.
There are people on the operations, and it is really not reasonable.
Okay.
To start talking about rules and regulations, the details.
I am glad.
Which language the caps are written in, which.
But I'm glad we've agreed on one thing.
Yes.
That for a mass transport system to have little billboards or little signs within the stations in Chinese doesn't make sense. That one, spokesperson, I think we've agreed.
If it is for Kenya and
for you and me, who
it should be translated like yesterday in Kiswahili and English.
But for the engineers, you think for skills transfer, it's acceptable?
For skills transfer, for example, if we are talking about overhauling an engine, how much literature do you think is involved? Let me call it 50 pages. Yeah? The best way to do it is to give it to a linguistic expert, take it to the Nairobi University. They have what is called that institute, very good, teaching Chinese since my days there.
And seek translation. The report that we are waiting
get it translated, and then we go on.
The report that we are waiting for within 7 days. Can you, for example, tell the team about these complaints?
No.
Because you also feel it's a concern.
Don't try to influence the teams as all this literature, and don't try to tell the teams what finding to make.
But it's our concern.
What we need to do is to have confidence that what CS will call attorney, the team he appointed, has the necessary skills, and where they don't have, they know where to get them. We cannot start discussing what are they likely to find out. We don't do that.
Okay, okay. Let me pick up with you, and I mentioned that we're just wrapping up this discussion with the handover program, and you gave me some stats. So we're talking about 68% this year of local, you said local content, and maybe you can just take me through that once more. 68% this year, 72% local, Kenyans basically carrying out operations, 77, and then you gave me a number of 90%. By when
By 2022.
By 2022. So by 2022, 90% of all operations regarding SGR will be done by Kenyans.
Yes.
And any expats, any expats retained will be on a need basis only.
It will be negotiated after that, so that whatever happens within 10 years, that thing is purely Kenyan. But I told them why I was cautioning the way we are covering this thing. If we start, when there is a small problem, we concentrate on that. Are we going to be able to do it? This is what should be our concern. Which
is why I'm glad this information came out, because those working there are concerned that they're not being given a chance to be involved in that. It's one of the complaints.
1 year, 1 year is a relatively short time. I can tell you that, Wahiga. I don't know how much responsibility you give to people in Royal Media after 1 year. But what I can assure you is that going by the information I received from the management.
And you spoke with the CEO of Kenya Railways.
That program is being judiciously followed. And I said it will only be unfortunate if it reaches 2022 and you say, you know what, we don't have the 77%. Remember, it is not about jobs. It is not about sitting in offices. It is being able to deliver the tasks required of that position.
In the conversation you've had with Kenya Railways, this remaining 10% that could remain in the hands of expats post-2022, what sort of tasks are those that are so complex that a Kenyan would not be able to do in the next 5 years?
Well,
they give you specifics?
I did not disaggregate it to that level. But one thing you should be able to understand is that when we have competent 68%, the Chinese leaves, they take over that. And it is 68% of the responsibility. It is 68% of the services required. It is not just sitting in the office and saying, now I am boss. The van the Chinese were using, I'm using it now. No. And if we learn fast enough, after this period, we expect these Kenyans to re-engineer the process to make it better, to give it even a bigger local taste, and to address all these other issues we are talking about, languages and all that.
Fair enough. Spokesperson, thank you so much for finding time to join us today and for explaining some of the statements that you made yesterday. We may not have agreed on everything, but I'm glad we agreed on one thing. Thank you so much. Kiraithe, the government spokesperson, sharing his, sort of giving us a response to some of the statements he made yesterday, statements which have not been very well received by some of you.